As a law enforcement officer, what is the weirdest thing you've experienced while on duty that sent chills down your spine? It had just been a year and 2 months as a police officer, and I was still learning the ropes. One night, my partner and I were patrolling an area when we got a call that there was a disturbance in a neighborhood not too far from where we were, and we were told to check it out. Now, I'd love to mention that I am a very realistic person. I don't believe in ghosts, paranormal activities, or miracles, and I didn't even believe in Santa as a kid. On the other hand, my partner was a very religious person, and once in a while, she would talk about things like miracles, angels, and demons. It was just her belief that all these things actually exist in our world, and that we were not here in this world alone. After about 10 minutes of driving, we arrived at the neighborhood we had been asked to check out. That neighborhood had one abandoned house, and from the first month I resumed as a police officer, I heard weird rumors that that particular house was haunted. Some of the other police officers talked about it once in a while, and almost everyone who lived in that neighborhood believed the house was actually haunted. At first, I had no idea we were going to check out the rumored haunted house until my partner pulled over in front of the house. "What are we doing here?" I asked, with my eyes trying to scan the property. "This is where the disturbance was reported to come from," my partner responded. And with that, she got out of the car. "Come on, it could just be some kids playing in the haunted house. You know these kids," I tried to persuade her. I totally believed it was not necessary to go into that building, because it was in a very shabby state. There were broken cobwebs at the entrance. This was our cue that someone had entered the building recently. Also, the horrible smell from the building was so bad that it made my stomach rumble. "Why are you whining like a baby? I thought you didn't believe in ghosts," my partner asked, and then she laughed and walked into the property. We both had our flashlights on, because there was no sign of electricity in that house. It had been abandoned for over 20 years, and no one had tried to sell or buy it. After we entered the house and searched the rooms, we could not find any kids or any sign that anyone had been in there recently. We even tried to call out for someone and inform them that we were police, just in case someone was trying to hide in the house, but we didn't get any response. We spent 10 minutes checking all the rooms, walking up and down the stairs to cross-check that everywhere was clear. After we confirmed that everywhere was clear, we were just about to call in clear and leave the house when we heard a loud crash from one of the rooms upstairs. As soon as we heard that crash, my partner gave me a look, and we rushed upstairs to see what had happened. So there was a particular room we had checked while checking the rooms. The room had a giant bookshelf with hundreds of old books arranged on the shelves. I could have sworn that the first time we looked at that room, there were only a couple of books on the floor. But after that loud crash we heard, there were at least 20 to 25 books on the floor, if I'm not mistaken. Again, my partner asked, "Is there anyone here?" But no one answered. When no one answered, we scanned the room again, but found nothing. "Maybe the books just fell," my partner said. "Or maybe the ghost in this house must have pushed them down." I teased my partner, but she didn't find it funny. I can't recall what I was searching for on that shelf. I think I was just shining my flashlight on the books when I noticed that one of them looked like it had been taken off the shelf recently. It was a big red book. When I noticed that, my curiosity had the best of me. Immediately, I tried to take the book from the shelf, but something unexpected happened. To our great surprise, the shelf turned out to be a big door, and the book I tried to pull out of the shelf was its key. When that door opened, it revealed one of the scariest shits I have ever seen in my life that still haunts me to this day. So a year before I joined the force, there were cases of missing children in that town, and despite all the search parties and information shared on the news and social media, no one could find the children. According to their parents, it was almost like they vanished into thin air with no trace. Even after I joined the police, we had the case of 3 missing children whom we never found. It was frustrating and alarming, especially when kids knew they were not safe in their hometown. As police officers, we searched every possible place we suspected and thoroughly questioned people in the affected neighborhood, including the parents of the missing children, but we never got anything solid. 2 kids had been missing for more than 2 years, and 3 kids had been missing for almost 8 months. Of all the things my partner and I expected to see in that abandoned building that night, it was definitely not the missing kids being chained to the walls like animals. All 5 of them were alive, but they were all in horrible conditions. Words cannot even describe the awful state in which we found those children. Before even trying to help the kids get out of those chains, we called for backup immediately and told them what we had found. In less than 10 minutes, more than 6 police cars arrived, and we helped the kids out of that secret room. I really wish I could describe the condition in which we found those children, but I can't. Another weird thing was that they all wore the same pink dress. All 5 kids were girls, and upon a series of tests, we found out that there was no sign of sexual assault. You might be wondering why I skipped the part of their kidnapper, and that's because we didn't find any adult in that secret room with them. However, there were signs that whoever had taken them clearly spent a lot of time with them in that room. We found hundreds of children's storybooks, bedtime stories, children's riddles, cups, plates, leftover food, some boxes of snacks, and many other children-friendly things. But we didn't find anyone there. When the children were finally in good shape to talk to us, we questioned them and asked if they knew who had taken them, and they nodded. "It was Mrs. Rose, our school teacher," the children said in unison. All 5 children attended the same school, and they knew who had taken them. "Mrs. Rose?" the officer in charge asked, with his face frozen. "Yes," the children nodded. Mrs. Rose was a well-known elderly woman in the town. It was a small town, so almost everyone knew each other. Mrs. Rose had been a teacher since her 20s and had risen up the career ladder. Unfortunately, a year before the missing children case started, Mrs. Rose had lost her husband, children, and 4 granddaughters in a ghastly motor accident, and it really traumatized her. After the accident, she could not resume work as a school teacher because she was mentally unfit and had been acting weird. Seeing that she could no longer work and had no company, Mrs. Rose tricked those 5 girls into following her, and no one knows how she ended up taking them to the abandoned house. As for the secret room, there were rumors that Mrs. Rose was a close family friend of the owners of the abandoned house before they all died mysteriously. So that must have been how she knew about the secret room. Now, the reason Mrs. Rose's case never made it to one of those crime mystery documentary shows was because on the day the police were supposed to arrest her for her crimes, they found her dead in her home. She had slit both her wrists, and we found her in a pool of her own blood. It was such a depressing sight to see. She committed suicide because she knew she would be jailed for her offense, and she didn't want to face the law. Thank goodness we found those girls that night. Though I still don't believe in God or anything. I believe that it wasn't just a coincidence that we found those children. My partner said it was God who led us to those kids. And as much as I'd love to argue, I can't, because there was definitely a higher power who orchestrated how things would turn out that night. Anyway, it's a good thing they never had the opportunity to get information from Mrs. Rose. If not, I would have been in so much trouble.